So my name is Lauren Pittman and my group is Group 1, and today we're presenting on the FAST telescope for our WDA project. We're going to walk through what FAST is, why it became controversial, and the perspectives involved and our proposed solution as well. So before we get into everything, I think it is important to quickly go over again what FAST actually is. So FAST stands for the 500-meter Aperture Spherical Telescope, and it's the largest single-dish radio telescope in the world. The dish is 500 meters across and made up of more than 4,000 individual panels. It sits inside a natural karst depression in the Guzhou province, which looks like a giant bowl-shaped valley. And this location setting was not random, as it was placed there because the rock structure helps block outside radio noise, which is very important for the telescope's sensitivity. And FAST is designed to detect extremely faint radio signals that smaller dishes would never be able to pick up. So overall, FAST is basically a massive, highly engineered ear pointed at the universe, and it was built to hear the quietest radio sources coming from space. So FAST has several major scientific goals, all of which directly connect to topics that we've been discussing in our astronomy classes. So first, FAST is built to detect pulsars, which are rapidly rotating neutron stars that emit radio pulses. FAST sensitivity makes it ideal for discovering new pulsars and studying their timing, which even contributes indirectly to gravitational wave research. Another core goal is mapping neutral hydrogen in our galaxy and also in nearby galaxies. FAST design allows for large-scale hydrogen surveys, which may help map galaxy structure, star formation regions, as well as rotational patterns. FAST also studies black hole environments, gas clouds, and distant galaxies through their radio emission. And radio waves are great for looking at cold gas, magnetic fields, and extreme environments that optical telescopes are not able to see. Finally, FAST also plays a major role in SETI, which is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And FAST is sensitive enough to pick up the faint, narrow band radio signals that could come from other civilizations. So its scientific goals cover up basically anything from neutron stars to galaxy mapping to potential SETI discoveries. What makes FAST so scientifically powerful is the combination of its size, its location, as well as its overall engineering. The 500-meter dish gives it unmatched sensitivity, and like we've discussed in class, how resolution depends on wavelength and diameter, and radio telescopes need huge diameters in order to see anything faint. So the karst depression helps create the naturally quiet radio environment, that the surrounding region was cleared in order to reduce interference even further as well. And that kind of low noise environment is a huge advantage for the radio astronomy. FAST also uses an active surface where thousands of panels constantly move to correct the spherical aberration, and this lets FAST change its shape slightly as it tracks objects, giving it better accuracy than a fixed dish like Arecibo. And the feed cabin is suspended by cables and controlled with several mechanisms, which allows high precision adjustments to happen in real time. So overall, FAST scientific strength comes from extreme sensitivity, a radio quiet location, and advanced engineering that gives it better accuracy and flexibility than older telescopes. So these scientific goals line up with concepts we've already been discussing and covering in class. Radio telescopes work at long wavelengths, so you need a massive dish for sensitivity and resolution. Radio astronomy also depends heavily on reducing interference, which explains why FAST needed such a remote location. Neutral hydrogen surveys help track galaxy motion and structure, and FAST is specifically designed for that. And pulsars are neutron stars with precise timing signals, which FAST can study because of its extreme sensitivity. So basically, everything FAST is built to do fits directly into the principles that we have been learning.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Hoover, and I'm going to be talking about the conflicts in regards to the FAST telescope in China. FAST, the world's largest single-dish radio telescope, required China to create what they call a sound electromagnetic wave environment. To achieve this, the government relocated more than 9,100 villagers and over 2,000 families living within a 3-mile radius of the site in Pingtang and Luodian counties. This region is located in Guizhou, which is one of China's poorest provinces. Many of the people relocated were already economically vulnerable, and yet each person received only about $1,800 in compensation, an amount that does not come close to covering the long-term costs of losing one's home, community, and livelihood. China's relocation practices raise serious human rights concerns. Although China has ratified the UN International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, which bans forced evictions, the government justifies these displacements as being for the greater good, which they claim makes them lawful. Forced evictions are defined by the UN as the removal of individuals or communities from their homes without adequate legal protections or alternatives. This definition closely matches what happened to FAST surrounding villages. These relocations are not isolated events. China has displaced over 45 million people for the national development projects, including the Three Gorges Dam and preparations for the Beijing Olympics. One resident who has relocated twice stated, "If the government says you have to move, you move. We can't oppose them." And we see growing public frustration. About 65% of the 180,000 protests each year in China are connected to land seizures and relocation. The scale of these displacements is massive, equivalent of moving the entire populations of New York and Texas combined. Finally, what makes FAST especially controversial is what happened after people were removed. In the past year alone, over 240,000 tourists, both Chinese and international, visited the telescope. Tourism around FAST generated about $692.5 million in revenue. This rapid development led to 47 hotels, 239 restaurants, and 6 tourist goods companies, providing over 33,000 jobs. But none of this economic growth benefits the people who were forced to leave. They received only $1,800 each and cannot access these new jobs because they no longer live in the area. So, we see a major contradiction. The government displaced 2,000 local residents to make room for hundreds of thousands of tourists, raising questions about who truly benefits from the FAST project and at what human cost.
Next, I'll cover the perspectives and experiences. So I broke this up into 3 categories: people who will use the observatory, people who will be engaged with it, and then people who have an ongoing connection with it. So first, people who will use the observatory. So first I have scientists and observers. So for researchers, FAST represents an extraordinary scientific opportunity. It allows for its extreme sensitivity, allows for major discoveries, and at the same time, FAST observing time is extremely limited and highly competitive, which will also create real pressure to produce meaningful results. Next, I have grad students and future astronomers. So FAST offers them access to incredibly high quality data sets that can shape entire dissertation projects and launch research careers. But this opportunity comes with a steep learning curve. The technical demands of operating and analyzing FAST data can be challenging, especially for early career researchers. But still, being a part of this high-profile scientific discovery is a major boost professionally. And then last, I have the support staff. So these people are who keep the observatory running day to day. For many, the FAST will provide stable employment and a sense of pride as they're contributing to one of the world's leading scientific instruments. Overall, FAST provides a workplace and an opportunity space that will help shape these 3 groups in different ways. So then next, I have the people who will be engaged or affected by the construction of this. So first, I have the construction workers, so the team that will actually bring FAST into to existence. So they face an incredible complex set of challenges with reshaping the landscape, installing thousands of reflective panels, and coordinating massive workforce over many years. So despite the difficulty, many workers and managers will take real pride in what they have accomplished. Building the world's largest single-dish radio telescope is a historic achievement, and many will feel they have helped put the region on the globe scientific map. So next, I have families who will have to be relocated, and just the local community around where this observatory will be built. So for local communities, FAST has brought a mix of benefits and challenges. On the positive side, many families receive new housing, improved roads, and access to growing buildings and tourism opportunities in the area. But these gains also come with some negatives. So some residents are going to have to relocate and leave behind the homes that they probably grew up in, and traditional livelihoods shifted or become harder to maintain. So feelings about compensation and the jobs that were promised vary. Some are satisfied while others will feel very disappointed or face difficulties. So then next I have people who have ongoing connections to this project. So first I have the local government officials. So for regional leaders, FAST represents far more than scientific instrument. It's a symbol of the scientific achievements. So they see it as a major asset that elevates the status and strengthens China's position in the global astronomy. So officials also highlight the economic benefits linked to FAST. The observatory brings increased tourism, attracts researchers and students, and justifies major upgrades to local infrastructure. From their perspective, FAST is both a scientific landmark and a driver of long-term regional development. And then lastly, I have tourism, workers, and entrepreneurs. So on the ground, people working in tourism experience these changes directly. The arrival of scientists, journalists, students, and curious visitors can boost many local businesses, from guest houses and restaurants to souvenir shops and tour services. But these opportunities also will come with some negative effects. So tourism workers must operate with a protected radio quiet zones, limited electronics and communication tools. This will also mean that income is also seasonal. Some businesses will thrive during peak visitation, while others will struggle due to controlled access around these observatories. Together, these perspectives will show how FAST shapes not only scientific research, but also the economic and social landscapes of the surrounding region.
Okay, this is Miranda, and now that we've learned about FAST Scientific and the conflicts from Lauren, Kate, and Kira, I'm going to be proposing some ethical solutions that can be taken in the future. So, fast construction created major tension between scientific progress and the impact on the local communities. More than 9,000 villagers were relocated to create a radio quiet zone around the telescope, cited in Source 1 and Source 5. Each displaced resident received roughly $12,000 or about $1,800 US, which raised concerns about whether this was truly enough to restart a life, as cited in Source 1 and Source 5. Many people questioned whether they had any real choice in leaving, especially since this region is rural and historically has little political power. At the same time, FAST long-term operation ultimately relies on the support of the surrounding community because any interference from electronics or tourism because of the sensitive technology or nearby homes can disrupt the sensitivity, as said in Source 7. So the central question going forward, and the key ideas I'm going to address, is how to balance FAST scientific importance with the need for protecting the rights and well-being of the people and communities who live close to it. Okay, so based on everything we know, our group proposes 4 main solutions to address this conflict and prevent any similar issues in future observatory projects. First, we believe that community members should have a meaningful role in decisions about the future expansions or policy changes. We've seen in other locations when communities are given feedback or the ability to ask questions, conflicts becomes less severe, as said in Source 2. Second, relocation and compensation decisions should be overseen by an independent group with no affiliation for the actual relocation, meaning not only the government making decisions on compensation. Compensation levels right now are set internally, and we've already seen what that leads to in the lack of resources for these displaced families to rebuild their life, as said in Source 1. Additionally, the displaced families need long-term support, not just the one-time payout. We believe that housing assistance and job opportunities should be given to these families, additionally as access to education would help families actually rebuild after they're relocated, as said in Source 5. And finally, large-scale observatories should require a social and cultural impact assessment before construction, as FAST created challenges that weren't anticipated, and that future projects should plan for these real human effects and weigh the pros and cons with the need for scientific advancement with the negative impact on these local communities. So to talk about the scientific and historical and ethical evidence supporting our solutions, scientifically, the telescope's success depends on having a radio-stable quiet zone, and stronger relationships with local communities could support this and make the scientific environment better. Historically, China has carried out other massive projects like the Three Gorges Dam that cause widespread displacement and long-term harm. The FAST relocation shows these similar patterns and highlights the need to learn from past mistakes and a need to address them in the future in a more comprehensive way with the communities and families affected, as said in Source 1 and Source 9. Ethically, families deserve a meaningful choice, fair treatment, and enough compensation to actually rebuild their life. The relocation for FAST did not fully provide these protections or adequate compensation, as said in Source 5. Additionally, it's important to not repeat the telescope conflicts seen in other places. When cultural values and local communities are ignored, these tensions grow instead of being resolved, as said in Source 2. There are several arguments people make to defend how FAST was built, but each of them has limitations. An argument that we've seen is that FAST is a major scientific milestone and a part of China's plans to become a global leader in scientific progress. The decision-making records show how important FAST was, but even for important projects, scientific progress shouldn't come at the expense of vulnerable communities, as said in Source 8. Another argument is that residents were in fact compensated, but the actual payment, around $1,800 was too far low to rebuild or actually restart their life in a completely separate area after being displaced, as said in Source 5. Our third argument is that sacrifice is necessary for progress, but the burden tends to fall on the same rural low-income communities who have less ability to push back and actually be heard by their local government, as said in Source 2. And finally, FAST has increased China's scientific prestige, but in order for that prestige to be actually meaningful and have a lasting positive legacy, the communities who were impacted need to feel like they were heard and supported and not displaced and left with no resources, as said in Source 7. This is why our proposed solutions are designed to protect both the scientific advancement and the people who live close to it. Thank you.